I do networking, a lot of networking, and recently I've asked myself a question. How do I systemize my personal network of people? And I started to research how do people solve that particular problem. Now, long story short, everyone uses their own system built on either paper cards or digital records. Yet during my research, there was one app that stood out. It was Clay.earth, an app that was seemingly built to the very purpose of solving a problem of systemizing personal network. Now, I was looking for application that would allow me to better manage my personal contacts, not work contacts, not professional ones, not clients, but personal ones. Obviously, most of my personal network is still professional, but I wanted a tool that would allow me as a professional to connect with people from the vast network of people I know. Often just randomly chat with someone without particular purpose, just for the sake of building better relationships. So here's the question. Is Clay.earth holding its promise? Is that the app that's going to be part of my personal software arsenal and will replace my current mental CRM? In this video, I'll explain you what Clay is, what company stands behind it, who this product was created for, and most importantly, who this product is not intended for. I'll talk about the user experience and implementing this product into personal life. I'll discuss the features of this product, what it can do, and most importantly, what it cannot do. I'll talk about the versions of this application, product support, which I also had experience with, and the community. I'll do a very brief technical review just so you better understand how it works. And of course, I'll definitely talk about security and compliance. Finally, I'll discuss its costs and express my personal opinion, whether this application is suited for me, whether I can use it, what I like, what I didn't like about it, what was sufficient, and what was lacking. Choosing the right CRM system can be tough, but I have a solution. I've created a free tool that will match you with the perfect CRM for your business in just a few minutes. Now, how it works, you message me on WhatsApp, I ask you a few questions about your business, you receive a personalized recommendation based on your specific needs. I'm constantly expanding the list of industries I cover, and right now you can get a recommendation completely free of charge. So don't miss out, this service might become paid in the future. Click the WhatsApp link in the description to this video below. Which is a great time to talk about company and who this product is made for. Now, Clay.earth, do not confuse this with another Clay which actually has similar functionality, was founded in 2019 and, as far as I can tell, in the United States. On June 12, 2024, the company was acquired by Automattic, the company behind WordPress. If you don't know what WordPress is, it's a huge platform for creating websites. By the way, my company's website is built on WordPress, as are the vast majority of great sites and blogs you have ever seen. According to some data, almost 40% of websites on the internet consists of WordPress. Don't hold me to these exact figures. I don't know the precise numbers, and however much I try to find these definite figures, they vary greatly. But let's agree on one thing. A significant portion of the internet consists of WordPress-based sites. From what I understood after studying the topic a bit, Automattic plans to integrate this product into their overall product ecosystem. They have many products including Beeper and Tumblr, and I highly encourage you to Google them. I'm not diving into those products right now. Now, Automattic plans to integrate Clay as what they call an identity layer, whatever that means. Now, what's important for us is that Automattic is a well-established company that recently celebrated its 20th anniversary, which suggests one important thing. The product is reliable and likely won't disappear anytime soon unless Automattic decides to significantly transform it, and can generally be trusted. Which brings me to an important topic: who Clay is for. Naturally, I turn to Clay's own description of what they say about themselves. They say approximately the following: it's for professionals who want to manage their own database of people, clients and potential clients, friends and family, personal circle, and personal network management. Interestingly, Clay says they are not a networking application, which is funny because, as it seemed to me, that's exactly what they should be working for. I don't really understand the difference between networking and managing a circle of people, but what's interesting is they have one interesting concept they promote. They want to introduce happy serendipity into your life by suggesting several people to think about. I'll explain how this works a bit later, but it's a very interesting and unusual concept that I'm not sure I agree with, but I can't say it doesn't work. This is a very interesting feature of this app, And honestly, I'm very grateful to Clay, their philosophy, and their blog, because I didn't even know how much I needed this app. I pulled out all my contacts from all the years I've had. There were over 5,000 of them, and I went through most of them. Of course, not each one individually, but using their filters and many other tools. And I found many interesting old contacts and reconnected with them. I don't know what will come of this, but it's very interesting at the minimum. In other words, Clay was created specifically for people like myself, professionals who either have their own businesses or are self-employed and personally involved, or simply people who work in large companies and want to manage their own network of people, acquaintances, friends, and, remember birthdays, and so on. Now, it's also worth mentioning who Clay is not for. Well, first, it's not for sales teams, despite having a team subscription. This application is not about sales because it simply lacks the necessary functionality. It's not for people who manage sales funnels because there is no sales funnel there. It's just a big address book with very interesting features. Finally, as they say themselves, it's not a networking application, which I personally don't entirely agree with. In my understanding, this application is exactly for networking. In any case, it's a good time to look at the application itself and discuss its user experience and adoption. When you open the application, you see 4 tabs. Well, actually 5, but let's say 4 because the 5th is search, which we're going to discuss separately. Home tab. Here you can see all changes happening in your network. For example, job changes. It pulls this from Twitter and LinkedIn. If you live in non-US countries where LinkedIn isn't used, unfortunately, this feature will be useless. And it's a very useful feature when it works. You also see people Clay suggests you think about. And this works using AI. I don't know how it works. I think they themselves don't know exactly how this algorithm works because it's some AI that learns from you, your network, and randomly selects 3 to 5 people. You can actually configure how many people you want. I think you can set up to 10 people maximum and 0 at minimum. This is called automatic reconnect, and it randomly shows you 5 people. This is what happy serendipity they want to introduce into your life. 5 random people to think about, reflect on relationships. I perceive this as simply writing, "Hey, how are you?" to these 5 people, and you never know what it might lead to. It's quite cool concept. I like it, though I prefer a bit more control to who I introduce myself to. Then there are birthdays, events, social media changes, social media posts, from those people that Clay is recommending you to reconnect with, and reminders you set for yourself. Sharing a place where you can see people, and lists shared with you if you have a team subscription. Next, People tab. This is a list of all your contacts with the ability to open each one separately. There's nothing to add here. It's a great list. What I liked is in the desktop application, you can use shortcuts directly from the list to change something. You just navigate up and down with keyboard arrows, press, for example, E if you need to edit something, and that's it. It's very convenient. The application shortcuts are simply delightful. Next, contact cards. If you open a People card, it's very interestingly built around notes. You can and should write what you wanted to remember and leave different tags with hashtags. With the Add button, you can mark connections between people. For example, if you introduce someone to someone else, you mark that on such and such date, you introduce this person to that person, so you just remember that you introduced them. Then there is a contact button. And here's one very big drawback. There's simply no Telegram button to easy add Telegram as a source. I mean, for those who use Telegram. What is a source? Sources are where to pull information from. At least that's what they call them. But additionally, these are also contacts. Instead of writing a phone number, you write a source. Why this is done this way? Because it pulls contacts from different sources like WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Twitter, email. They're also means of communication. So if you press contact button, it takes you to one of those sources. Now, since Telegram doesn't support the same functions as, for example, WhatsApp for Business, where you can see the entire correspondence, and by the way, the application, Clay.earth, can see the entire correspondence. So basically, it means it pulls the whole correspondence from your WhatsApp, which completely suits me because I can see from contacts card when I communicated via WhatsApp, and it's very convenient. It's really, really cool feature. And Telegram doesn't allow for this. They should at least add a link for going to Telegram account of that particular person. At the moment, it's impossible. The only thing you can do is add a custom URL. You need to write something like t.me/username, and this is not very convenient, especially when you are on the go and you want to quickly add the contact. It's very slow. But it is what it is. Currently, Telegram is not supported. Next, Feed. In Feed, you can see all interactions like emails, WhatsApp, calls, iMessage, and calendar. It's convenient to track what was happening with this particular person. This is one of the best applications in terms of showing the context, and I've seen a lot of CRMs, and showing the context of what's happening with a specific person in one place, fantastic. Thanks to Clay, I discovered many people I simply didn't remember who they were. I started reading correspondence, it pulled email and even WhatsApp conversations for me. I could open an email, read what has been in a conversation, and remember who this person was. This way, I found several interesting contacts. Next, reminders. You can set reminders for people you want to follow up with, but there is a design flaw. All reminders must be assigned for a specific time, which creates confusion. Now, hear me out. First, it's unclear whether these reminders will repeat or, appear just once. Second, this time requirement is problematic because in practice, 95% of your reminders should be sometime today rather than at 2 p.m. sharp. When you're focused to assign arbitrary times to most reminders that don't actually need them, you will naturally start ignoring the time component entirely, including for that 5% of reminders where timing actually matters, like callback at noon as promised. In my opinion, it would be better if they made day reminders and time reminders separately. Then you would simply have a list like today you generally need to write, call, or do something with people at any available time. But there is part of reminders that need time. Nevertheless, they work, they appear in the list, and they don't disappear. Until you mark them you've done explicitly, they won't disappear anywhere. Up next, cadence. This is the frequency with which you should contact a person. There is a cool feature. There are different time periods, week, month, 2 months, etc. But the most interesting starts automatically. This is where AI comes up with a person should receive a reminder. I don't really understand yet whether this is a good or bad, but I feel like a bit lack of control, and I'd like to have more control. But on the other hand, there's a large part of contacts where you look and think, I don't know when to contact this person. I couldn't make decision and let somebody else make the decision for me. And this is actually cool on one hand, but I don't know what the maximum frequency of these reminders is. For example, won't there be a situation where you set it to automatic, and because you have many people in contacts, for example, say 1500, and you only get 3 people per day, that's like 900 or 1000 people per year. There might be a situation where it simply skips some people for longer than a year. I don't really understand how this works, but the idea of some hypothetical automatic cadence is pretty cool. And what if there were 5,000 contacts? That's the thing, Next, Nexus. This is an AI agent that understands text. It's convenient when there is a lot of context about a person and you need to make a summary or ask a question about a specific person, though it seems to me more like a toy. It's hard for me to judge, to be frank. I'd be interested to hear from someone who really uses this because I have nothing to comment about this Nexus yet. It's another LLM. I don't know what it's based on, but it's there. It's cool, and the future is definitely behind this, and it's convenient, but I don't know how well it works, to be frank. Next, groups. You can add people to groups, set cadence at the group level, copy emails and numbers to make, for example, a mailing list, export everything to a CSV file. In groups, you can see so-called highlights, all the same things as on the homepage, but filtered by this particular group. This is convenient if you need to track participants of some event or, for example, all executives. But though I couldn't figure out what exactly these highlights in these groups are needed for. Fairly speaking, I don't know. Maybe it's related to my specific case, but for some reason, my highlights in groups showed me people who had nothing to do with those groups. I don't know. Maybe there is a bug, or maybe I misunderstood the feature. Which is a great time to talk about search. And here it should be noted that officially this is their biggest feature. In fact, I'm not entirely sure I fully figured it out because the idea of search is that you can write in simple words what you want to filter. But the problem is they seem to use some sort of their own syntax. For example, I wanted to filter people with whom I had no interactions at all. I couldn't do that. Another example. Give me everyone with low relationship level, which, by the way, is a separate feature of Clay. If you go to a contact, they have a network strength in the upper right corner. High, medium, and low. I want to say, filter everyone with low network strength for me, and I couldn't do this. Search doesn't provide this. Search promises to be very simple, but often I didn't see people in results who should have fit this description, who definitely had certain tags. They have their own syntax described on the site, but I always have a suspicion that it's not fully described, or if it's complete, it's very small and limited. What should be the key feature didn't work for me very well. I don't understand why, to be frank, but it's like the idea is great, but people who should definitely fall under this criteria just weren't filtered, and those who were caught were some just random folks. I don't understand by what principle at all. Often I simply lack functionality like filter everyone by weak network strength or something like that. Also, for example, I filtered people I met more than a year ago. It only filters people with whom there were meetings. If there were no meeting with certain person, like at all, if there were no interactions with that people, they just don't fall into any search at all. They just seem to be invisible for the search. This is a real problem. Next, adding contacts. Clay offers a genuinely clever feature for adding new contacts. You can simply paste a LinkedIn URL and it should automatically import the person's information. Picture this. You're at a networking event and someone says, find me on LinkedIn. You grab your phone, locate their profile, copy the link, and paste it into the Clay. In theory, their contact details should populate instantly. When this works, it's brilliant and saves tons of manual data entry. Unfortunately, the feature is unreliable. Sometimes LinkedIn imports perfectly, other times nothing happens at all. This inconsistency is particularly frustrating when you're trying to quickly capture contacts during or right after events. My workaround is to manually enter a person's name and paste their LinkedIn URL in the notes section along with their quick tag. I use numbers to identify events much faster than, typing full event name, just 1, 2, 3, and then later just replace it. While this defeats the purpose of the automatic import, Clay still excels at contact creation overall. The interface is designed around creating notes first and contacts second. You're essentially jotting down thoughts about a person with the option to formalize it into a contact later. This approach feels more natural than traditional contact apps. Now, the mobile experience adds some nice touches. You can record voice notes that automatically converts to text, only English though, unfortunately. Photograph business cards for quick import, cross-reference existing contacts, and set follow-up reminders. These features make Clay genuinely practical for real-world network situations, even when LinkedIn import doesn't cooperate. Next, automatic import. This is where Clay truly shines. Beyond basic LinkedIn integration, which many apps offer, Clay monitors your calendar and automatically creates contact entries for people you have meetings with. Here's how it works. Someone sends you a meeting invite for next week, for example, and Clay immediately pulls that person into your contact database and flags the upcoming meeting in your weekly overview. When you open their profile, you might not know anything about them yet, but you can see the meeting context and start building their profile before you actually meet. This proactive approach means you never lose track of people you are interacting with. Clay captures everyone who enters your professional orbit automatically. It's an incredibly thoughtful feature that deserves serious credit, which is a great time to talk about Clay's availability on different platforms. Now, Clay offers 3 platforms: desktop apps for macOS and Windows, though Windows naturally lacks iMessage integration, mobile for iOS only, and a web version. The iOS-only mobile app is a significant limitation. Android users are completely excluded. This affected me personally since I use a Google Pixel for client work. Some clients require dedicated devices for security reasons, and I choose Android over a second iPhone for just, variety. Without an Android app, I'm restricted to desktop and web access at times when only have my Pixel phone with me. The web version functions well and serves as a decent fallback. However, I encountered persistent stability issues across both desktop and web platforms. While the apps don't crash outright, they constantly fail to load content properly, requiring frequent page refreshes, reopening windows, and hitting that Command R buttons combination to reload. Data doesn't update reliably, and interface elements regularly need manual refreshing to display correctly. I can't speak to Windows performance, but these issues plagued both Mac OS desktop and web versions throughout my testing. It's very frustrating when you are trying to quickly update contacts or check information, which brings me to the product support discussion. Now, normally when I review software, I take a look at the ecosystem of the product, but unlike enterprise software, Clay doesn't have consultants, extensive communities, or dedicated customer success teams. It's designed for individuals and small teams. So instead of traditional support metrics, let's evaluate Clay's long-term viability and trustworthiness. I can't predict the future or guarantee any product's longevity, but I can assess the available, signals. Since Automatic's acquisition in June 2024, Clay's public presence has noticeably quieted. Their social media activity dropped significantly, LinkedIn posts became sporadic, blog updates ceased, and promotional content almost disappeared. Not completely, but almost. Now, while this could simply reflect Automatic's directive to focus on development rather than marketing, it creates uncertainty. Now, Clay's documentation exists and covers their core philosophy, but it feels stagnant since the acquisition. The writing frequency has clearly decreased, mirroring their reduced social media presence. On the other hand, despite the marketing silence, Clay recently shipped WhatsApp integration, a substantial feature that significantly improves the user experience. I can now see my WhatsApp communication history directly in contact profiles, which has actually influenced my messaging app preferences. This suggests active development continues behind the scenes. But then, Clay's supposed user forum is essentially non-existent. Their website mentions it, but it's inaccessible. Reddit has scattered individual posts, but no dedicated community. This absence adds to my uncertainty about the product's momentum. Finally, customer support. When I encountered an issue with the app from the App Store, Clay's support team took a full week to respond. They did resolve the case though, but the delay felt telling. As an independent company, they likely prioritize rapid customer support to retain customers and attract investors. Now, with Automatic's backing and some strategic integration plan, there's less urgency around customer service excellence. But again, that's my speculation, and I'm not basing this stuff on any insights, just, my observations. My overall assessment is mixed. The facts show continued development, but my intuition suggests something has shifted post-acquisition. Clay feels less urgent, less customer-focused, though still functional and evolving. Which brings me to the very short but also very important part of this video, technical review. Clay keeps things deliberately simple, targeting individual users and power users rather than enterprise teams. Their main automation offering is Make.com integration, but it's frustratingly limited. I expected robust workflow capabilities. For instance, automatically syncing Clay reminders to my task manager. I switched from Things for Mac to Todoist for better project tracking, but that's not the point for this video. Anyway, instead, Make.com offers just two Clay modules: create a contact and update a contact. This means you push contacts into Clay from external sources, but you cannot pull data out of Clay for using elsewhere. It's a one-way street that severely limits workflow integrations. Now, another major limitation: no custom fields. Clay doesn't allow custom dropdowns or specialized data fields. While I can't immediately think of custom fields I need for a personal context, the limitation becomes apparent when you want to expand beyond basic contact management. The workaround is using hashtags, but that's less structured than proper custom fields and limits filtering capabilities. And of course, Telegram gap. While Clay integrates beautifully with WhatsApp, showing full conversation history, Telegram integration is non-existent. This isn't entirely Clay's fault. Telegram's API philosophy differs from WhatsApp's business-friendly approach. Still, Clay could at least provide a contact via Telegram button that opens the app with the right person. Currently, you'd need to manually create custom URLs like t.me/username and so on for each contact, which is cumbersome. Now, these limitations reflect Clay's consumer focus, but feel restrictive for users wanting to build more sophisticated personal CRM workflows, which brings me to the discussion of their pricing. Clay has three pricing plans: free, up to 1,000 contacts; pro, unlimited contacts; and team, up to 4 users. What's interesting and really intrigued me is they have advanced data enrichment in their team plan. I am very interested in what that actually means. I contacted these guys but haven't received an answer yet. At the moment of recording this video, there is no answer. And that's it. Literally, there is nothing to discuss about pricing anymore, which is a great time to give my personal take on the app. Now, Clay fundamentally changed how I think about contact management. Coming from Salesforce, which I now realize is terrible personal relationship tracker, Clay introduced me to the concept of personal CRM. The impact was immediate. I imported over 5,000 accumulated contacts over years and rediscovered dozens of people I'd lost touch with. Reaching out to contacts from like 5-7 years ago yielded surprisingly warm responses. Turns out these relationships were more valuable than I'd remember. Clay is undeniably useful, but it feels structurally limited. Everything revolves around basic groups and hashtags, which becomes primitive when managing large contact databases. I found myself wanting proper filtering systems, custom reports, and ways to extract specific contact lists for targeted outreach. The organization feels more like a digital notebook than a sophisticated database. My biggest frustration is search reliability. While Clay excels at enriching data for digitally active professionals, it struggles with my offline contacts, like manufacturing company owners, niche business operators, people without significant web presence. These contacts essentially disappear from search results unless I remember their exact names. And even then, search sometimes fails to find people I know are in the system. I absolutely love the hotkey-driven interface. The design is genuinely beautiful. It's 10 out of 10 undoubtedly. And the context display is unmatched. The integration experience, especially for adding new contacts, sets the standard for the whole industry. However, decreased social activity, performance issues, and unreliable search function that should be Clay's crown jewel. So, would I want to use this system? And at this point, I'm withholding my judgment until next review, where I'll compare Clay to its closest competitor. They're so similar they could be twins with nearly identical feature sets and naming conventions. I'm currently using both applications in parallel to make a proper comparison. So make sure to subscribe to not miss my next video, hit that like button to help spread the word, and see you next time. Thanks for watching. Peace.